These hidden gems could 50x. This is NC Hammer Crypto. My name's Neil, keeping technical analysis short and sweet, and we don't know that either, but let's find out. So we're looking at Bitcoin. So we had this push down following the exact trend that I had placed. I had it enlarged previously, and we had a lower retracement down to the 200 EMA. Consolidated a bit, kind of make it look more like the chart that we were dealing with. And we could have a further trace down testing this CM guppy before pushing up and then testing it more as support and then holding above the CM guppy. We can see that it held above the 50% mark for a while here before it had that dip down. Here we want to see the similar thing where we hold at least through the bottom line, and then we have that consolidation, and then we hold above the 50% mark, pushing it upwards, testing the bottom of the CM guppy most likely, and then pushing up yet again. That is for Bitcoin, but that is kind of what controls the rest of the market, as we saw Bitcoin push up a little bit, and so did everything else. CTSI is something most people don't know about, is currently 0.8 cents and looking very, very bullish. We have this major bullish momentum, retrace to keep the healthy market, do it again, retrace to keep the 200 EMA in respect, and then we finally inch up over that 200 EMA, and now we are going to be testing that 200 EMA as support. We also broke a downward trend line, which is very important. Volume is picking up. I'm going to actually see what the RSI is for CTSI so we can get a little bit better view. RSI is very healthy as well. Putting back on the CM guppy. We are now in the green. This is decreasing volume, increasing price. That is considered divergence. It's a very small divergence in this case, but we see that it has rapid movements for CTSI. This is probably testing this yellow line, probably going to push up, maybe test it again before ultimately pushing towards the overbought side, which would ultimately increase in price. And it's currently 8 cents. This previous high is at almost 49 cents. The even higher high is all the way up here at $1.79. So if you're looking for really good opportunities, this has a potential, if you invest even $1 or $100, nearly 2,000% potential on CTSI or 20x. So if you are in like XCN or some of the other smaller coins, XVM, CTSI is something that you may have not looked into, but it has some major potential. Now is your entry opportunity, now more than ever. As we have all this bullish momentum, we are trying to hold above that 200 EMA. You could see if it tests this downward trend line yet again, but that is very unlikely. I believe now is your entry point for CTSI, but it is not financial advice. IOTX holding upward on this upward trend line. Still, we need to get above that 200 EMA. Ultimately, we'd like to see a price above 0.034 before having an entry, but it also has some major upward potential. 0.07 cents is its major resistance. However, its all-time high is also way up here around 50 cents for a 2-cent investment as opposed to an 8-cent investment. Small differences, big potential. Spell sneaking this one in. Still needing to get above that 200 EMA in this downward trend line before looking for an entry, but we are holding some nice support on this upward trend line. Doge, moving right into Doge. Had that major pump, held that support at 21 cents like we had talked about for weeks. The range, getting a little resistance here at 24, and beyond that was 29 cents, which we clearly tapped that and had the pullback for a healthy market. You can't have a continuation like that without expecting a major retracement. And typically, whenever we are looking for that retracement, the 618 is ideally where we would expect it to retrace to, which would be here at 24 cents. So if you missed that major pump up, I believe it was like 35 to 40% increase in price from the 21 cents. We had our sell-off here around 29 cents. And the pullback is most likely going to have a little bit more. We may see some support at this 0.5 consolidation, and the CM guppy slap this up towards the 29 cents and beyond. but for 26 cents on Doge, an all-time high, can hit $4. Very good ROI for Doge. I'm gonna make a separate video specifically on XCN, but bringing in Aerodrome still in the downward wedge. Maybe even test this 618, but with Bitcoin pushing upwards, the CM Guppy may be strong enough to break this downward wedge and start Aerodrome on its takeoff. Tornado Cash, I'm bringing it up repetitively because it's been over 100% in the past couple months while everything else is fluctuating in price or decreasing in price. Tornado Cash has constantly been increasing in price. If you missed your interest, $7.50, $10, $11, $13, or even $14. We are trying to get a little support here at $15.38. It's not holding up the best, but it did not have a full 50% retracement and close after that push up. So we are looking very, very healthy. We want to keep that 200 EMA nice and close, keeping the CM Guppy smooth and even, no rapid movements. We most likely will see a rapid movement to around 27, but with that movement, we will have a violent pullback. So that's a quick double money whenever it does take off, but keep the rapid retracement potential as a possibility. And what you would be looking at more or less would be, it could be pulling back to the 15, not very likely. Let's do something like this. This previous could be pulling back to around the 22 within this area once it hits that 27, because we are going to have a lot of bullish momentum, and that would be trading within this range of the 618 and the 5 from our previous Fibonacci retracement from that previous high. So we could expect a push to 27 and then a retracement back into this area. And Tornado, if you have not entered, you can trade it on MEXC. The reference is in the description below. I've been recommending it for months and in 100% plus profit. Even entering in here around the $13, we are still in profit with Tornado Cash, and it will continue to go up, all-time high of $459. Not a bad ROI. Flare, if you're invested in XRP, Flare is going to allow staking of XRP, and it is trying to break out of this downward trend and hold. It's getting some resistance. We may have a pushback into the trend line, but once we get up and over that and over this 0.023 cents, we could start seeing that momentum upwards towards 0.027 cents. The 618, keeping in mind, is up here at 0.038 cents. So it definitely has a long way to go. It's looking very bullish, even without the RSI. We want to keep that 200 EMA close so we can start making it back up towards that 0.055 cents for Flare. Compound is one I brought up many times. Major pump, major pullback. I mean, this one, it's consolidating. It's trying to make it over that 200 EMA. Ultimately, it needs to get over this downward wedge. And once it gets over that downward wedge, that is where the major movement starts to happen. So if you have not entered at this absolute low, it is recommended, as you can take that right up. Once Bitcoin starts pushing up more, we're going to see compound move very quickly. 618 being here at $51. It may not seem like the biggest increase in price for the investment, 16%. But the bigger picture for compound is way up here at nearly $1,000 from a $50 investment. And the 618 is at $573. That potential price increase, nearly over 2,000% potential price increase. And that's to hit the all-time high. It could double that, making it nearly a 40x for compound. So if you got $50 and want to see if you can turn it into roughly $1,000 or two, compound is your go-to, and it is consolidated. It's tight, similar to XYO and DNT. QNT. I don't have a separate video just for QNT because it is consolidating. It's holding that 200 EMA, starting its push upward. It's holding this upward trend line. I mean, I'm kind of repeating myself week after week, but ultimately breaking this downward trend line is what we want. We could see a rapid movement if Bitcoin starts to push up. As we saw when it was down in its lower points, it had, within a few days, a pretty major push up from its lows. So underneath the 200 EMA, 10 to 22% with a continuation to nearly 50% increase within the few weeks afterwards. So with that being said, we could expect for this maybe in the next month. I can't give you a time frame, but within the next month, I imagine we could have that breakout point to over a 34% increase in price, which would put you roughly about a 10% over where you were at, Aaron. But 67% to get to that previous high. That is our major resistance at 171. So you could imagine a little bit of a sell-off there with a quick buyback in around 150 to push it back up towards the 220 range, which would give you your 2x, and we could definitely see 3, 4, or even 10x for QNT, as it's very good utility coin and has a lot of use case potential, but definitely diversify into other cryptocurrencies such as BNT, all-time high of $20. It's not 1,000, doesn't seem as enticing, but at 74 cents to $20 to hit its all-time high, potentially double that. BNT, similar to XCN, has some major potential, and you could see 20x for BNT from where it currently sits. We are currently at over 100% increase in price from where we had our entry, down at 34 cents. It's forming very nicely, trying to consolidate and keep that 200 EMA in respect before it just jumps away from it up to all-time highs for BNT. So if you have not entered BNT, now is your entry point. Sneak in GRT, D-Force, GRT, need to break over that 10-cent mark. We've talked about that. D-Force, got rejected. Not a whole bunch of information to go off of that. We need to get over that 200 EMA as well. Moving over to something that may be more important, XDC. XDC consolidation still holding very nicely on that 200 EMA. Volume isn't picking up exponentially. I do want to see what the RSI looks like. The RSI is most likely very healthy, which it is healthy, and it needs to pull up over that yellow before we start seeing that momentum to the upside, which will very easily happen. And when that does happen, we've seen in the past it runs pretty quickly to the upside once it sees it's bottoming out and pushing up the 618 at 0.09, but definitely has a very long way to go. Once it breaks this downward trend line, we could be seeing it tap the 15-cent mark, which would be double, but XDC does have some major potential if you are invested in XRP. Near protocol, rejected by the 200 EMA, still need to get over it. Perpetual protocol got rejected on that downward trend line, still underneath the 200 EMA, need to get over it. XLM, downward trend, doesn't look as bullish as XRP, but is forming nicely within this wedge, and is also very bullish. This is a bullish sign. Once we get over this downward wedge, we could see that push up to 64 cents, and XLM could, they say, hit $50. I don't think this is a bull run that's possible, but anything's possible in crypto. XLM at 37 cents is a steal. Definitely enter that if you're entering in on XRP. LCX, I say your entry is anywhere around the 15-cent mark. When you start seeing some momentum, we could say it needs to break this downward trend line before fully entering into a bigger position, but LCX looks very nice. Sneaking in Toshi and Floki and Cookie. Jesus. It's going to be a long video. Toshi. It is above the 200 EMA. It's still within that downward wedge. It did not close and hold above that downward trend line. So ultimately, we need to see that. Or could we potentially touch this upward trend line? Yes, yet again, that is possibility, which would be touching that 200 EMA at the same time. But with that, we could get some major support and start seeing that upward momentum. Keeping in mind it is a meme coin, but it is forming very nicely to hold a bottom and start inverting itself and pushing towards this way, which the 618 is dropping a 0.15, which is a very good increase in price. There are potential others that could get you more money, so just keep that one in mind. Similar with Floki, meme coin, major pullback similar to Toshi, almost identical. Get over that 200 EMA and finish out this cup and handle at 0.00015. So a little bit of movement in Floki moves a little bit further than it does in Toshi, and the 618 is up here at drop 0.23. Just looking at Toshi and Floki right now. And then this one had its pullback within that downward trend line, which is as expected. We could adjust this trend line to be right here. So could we see a further retracement downwards? Yes. But ultimately, we need to get over that 200 EMA for a bigger position size in Cookie. But it does look very, very nice. I'm also sneaking in safely. Why not? Had its pullback, still not a whole bunch of information to go off of, but we see that it's getting a lot of rejection here at the 1, which had that pullback. Within this range is where it's trading, so you could see a further increase in price to that 38 cents or more if you have a bigger bag of it, but definitely don't hold a massive bag, as it can have that higher push up, but it's very uncertain of where it can be going from there, as there's not a whole bunch of information. BCH, sneak it in. Consolidation. That's it for BCH. Consolidation. Like and subscribe if you haven't. References in the description below to trade some of those on NextC. If you use that reference link, you get 10 USDT free. And good luck. Have fun with it. I will see you guys on the next one.